a buddy of mine.
All right, everybody, we are live and we are back on Creator Spotlight. Today, I have the esteemed Gabe Mangum. Now, you guys might not know who he is, but we're trying to make sure we tell people who he is. So let us know. All right, Gabe, where are you from, what you do, and how do you enjoy yourself?
What's up, guys? As you just said, I'm Gabriel Mangum, Gabe Mangum, whatever you really want to call me. I signed just by my last name, as you can see here on this nice, pretty book that we're going to talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I draw comic books. I started when I was a young lad. I actually did ink assist work when I was the ripe age of 10 in some Zenoscope books with my dad. I became an illustrator at 16. I also became a published writer at 16, working on the astute title of Gore Shriek, which is the first book Greg Capullo ever got published in. From there, I worked on some other horror titles like the Hatchet movie series books. That's where I got my first cover from. And I've just kind of floated around in the background doing stuff occasionally, kind of on the side, because it's what I do. Outside of comic books, I'm big into toy collecting. That's like literally my biggest passion in the world is toys, as you can see behind me. What you see behind me is literally like maybe a tenth of my loose collection. And this is spread across like easily a dozen lines just right here. Like I'm a big G.I. Joe guy. I have almost a quarter of the original line complete loose, and I've got like 60 carded figures. I don't display any of it because I don't have the space. Um, I've got dozens of vehicles, complete in box examples. Joe's my passion. I've got Mask, I've got Transformers, I've got He-Man, I've got Turtles, I've got Spawn, I've got a shitload of Spawn. I'm a big J. Scott Campbell fan, so I got Danger Girl shit everywhere.
Mm.
I've got tons of posters, thousands of comics. I've got a lot of original art that I love looking at. I'm a big fan of those gallery edition books done by like Graffiti Designs and IDW. Those are awesome. So that's just a little bit about me, what I collect, what I do. Outside of that, I'm also a forklift driver, so I'm a grunt during the graveyard shifts, and then I come home and I draw.
That's awesome. I mean, that's the thing. That's the true meaning of making it. You know, if you can get my drift, is like you came from working as a forklift driver to being a published artist and writer in your stories. I mean, it's like you were showing passion, which that was the first book I've seen from you, other than Hatchet, the Hatchet cover. I mean, that I've seen that many times. I still have all of those, you know, but it's because I'm a horror freak, as most people know. But I met you through your dad, you know, Andrew, and everybody knows Andrew, and we'll have him on the channel another day. So we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on him, but we will say this: that if it wasn't for Andrew, Gabe wouldn't be here today, of
Not
course.
at all.
But what I've noticed is like I've seen you at the conventions, you know, with your dad a lot of the time. But it's nice to see that you're kind of breaking out a little bit too and doing your own thing, which that's kind of hard because we both have seen that in like father sons, father daughters, kind of situations. Like Neil Adams is the son; he does work as well, but you're in the spotlight of Neil Adams all the time. So it's like, what do you do? How do you break yourself out? Well, that's by doing your own thing. That's what it comes down to, is doing it and having fun. So with that being said, Gabe, though, what is on the horizon? What do you see yourself doing? Where are we going?
Well, as far as currently on the horizon, the things I can absolutely guarantee is my creator-owned book Passion, which I just flashed at everybody, of course, and you have a copy of that. Thank you for the support.
Of
This is the
course.
preview book for all of those of you who have probably seen it already. This is something I launched a couple months ago, and this is just to give you a taste of what the book's about. I even drew him a quick little sketch.
Uh-huh.
This is just a little black and white version of the first little chapter in the book, and some pinups are in there, just some fun shit. But it's basically just my love letter to the 90s and everything that I love. Like I said, I'm a big J. Scott Campbell and Danger Girl fan. I love Gen 13. I love the bad girl craze of the 90s. I love She. I love fucking Razor. I love Nara X. I'm actually Nara X and Razor alumni also.
Mm.
So I've worked on a lot of those characters. I've worked on a lot of the London Night characters in like one fell swoop when we did the Kickstarter last year. So that was actually really cool as a fanboy. It's cool to work on all those characters. Of course, I love the Chaos U. I'm actually one of the moderators on the Cyber Fiends page on Facebook, in
Yep.
case you didn't know. So, and I've been doing that since the 8th grade.
It was kind of cool because like I've been around since the '80s in comics. I did the whole Crisis on Infinite Earths through DC, and then I went through the Jim Lee era of X-Men. And then we got to the mid '90s, and that's where I kind of broke out from Marvel and DC, reading Chaos and reading looking at London Night stuff. Like I still have my James O'Barr Crow book from Graffiti Designs, where he signed it and it came with the CD. I've had it since then. I still have it today, and I will never get rid of it because it's the freaking Crow. Come on.
It's
Um,
awesome.
but that's the same thing. It's like I've been doing Chaos for a long time now. Of course, I took a break out of comics, like a lot of us do. When you become an adult and you go do a job, sometimes things have to take you away. So I was away from comics for a while, and then I came back. And then what did I come back to? The same thing. I found Lady Death was back, and with Coffin, and I didn't even know. Like all I remembered was like, hey, Coffin shut down in 2001, or Chaos shut down in 2001, and then I heard about Avatar and Cross Gen. I'm like, that wasn't my cup of tea per se. But when I heard Coffin was around and Brian was doing it, he's doing the way he wanted to. I had a blast coming back, and so it kind of tailors into what I'm seeing today. Is like I'm loving seeing the independents being the way they are today. There's a lot of creative control that's being done by independent owners like you with passion. I've seen so many people like Ryan Kincaid doing Persuasion. Got Mariah Michaels, he's been doing his Pray for the Center, But then we're starting to see a lot of mixtures in, like Vampirella. Vampirella mixing in with Pray for the Center, which was a freaking awesome story. London Night coming back with Razor. Like I read the Razor that just came out not too long ago. And then of course, one of my favorite books, nobody likes it half the time, is Cave Woman by Devin Massey. I love me some Bud Root and some Devin Massey.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
so I'm so excited to see like where the scene is going. Now, what I have seen and a lot has changed is it's not your LCS comics anymore. A lot of it is Kickstarters, and the reason
Yep.
why you're wanting to make sure you can get it funded and get it out there for a lot of things. Because I've seen multiple Kickstarters, multiple Indiegogos not make it because some people don't want to push it as hard as they could. That's nobody's fault, but that's what happens sometimes. And what I'm also seeing too now is that is changing as well. Everybody's involved now. Like I saw you involved with the last Kickstarter that you were with, So of course I grabbed your covers, I grabbed your dad's covers, and stuff. And it's because I support you guys. I support the independent artist and the independent writer. And I want to see you guys be successful. But I also want to see new stories because I don't want to read another Batman story. I don't want to read another Todd McFarlane Spawn story. And if I see another ASM 300 homage, I think I'm going to get sick
I feel
because I've
that.
seen I've seen that so many times. And then the Venom sitting over homage. Don't get me wrong. There's some good ones out there. There've been some great ones done of those homages, but the original thing is what I'm after now.
Well, don't worry, you won't see any of those from me unless someone pays me a lot of money to do it.
And that's kind of the hard part with some of this is like some people break into the business with homage covers. I've seen some guys do that. Like, hey, look at this. I styled it after Jim Lee, or I styled it after the Todd McFarlane's, or the Larson's. Those of the '90s. I'm like, but where's yours? I want for me as a independent, I want to see what you guys are actually doing. What is your take on it? Where do you want your story to go? Like, how do you want to pull somebody in? So that's why I'm not a big two fan, I guess, because I don't think I need to have 8,000 covers and 8,000 issues to read one story. And
No,
that's
absolutely. I'm definitely of the same belief. Like with Passion One, I'll go ahead and tell you I have 5 covers, but each cover offers you something unique. I'm not doing black and white variants. I'm not doing foil. I'm not doing any of that shit. You're going to have 2 legend covers. So we got Mario Goli being inked by my dad, Andrew Mangum, which they were a pair back in the late 2000s. So I'm reuniting a crew. I'm having my buddy Dave Kemp color that.
oh
Got
yeah,
Jonathan Stinsman of Extreme alumni. Worked on Evangeline. He worked on Team Youngblood back in the day. I've got a cover from him. He did everything. He pinned, inked, and colored it. And then 2 covers for me. There's a really cool rooftop cover where she's firing as she's sliding towards the edge of this building. really nice shot. Again, it's going to be colored by Dave. And then I did a Campbell tribute because, again, J. Scott Campbell fan. But I did an obscure cover, something that nobody would probably immediately pick up on. And I'm not going to drop it right now. But yeah, it's another Danger Girl cover. Because, of course, right? But that's the thing, I wanted to do a different cover, something that nobody does, I haven't seen it at least. So that was different for me. And then the fifth cover is going to be a photo cover. So long as everything lines up, I'll be doing the photography myself, actually. But I've got a model coming in to pose for me.
See, and that's awesome. See, and what a lot of people don't understand is Gabe is doing everything for his book. Writing, artistry. You said you're bringing Dave in. You're bringing the Kemps in. You're going to be okay.
Yes, no,
Between Dave
100%.
and
I
Dan.
love their work.
you know,
You know,
so
Dan and Dave worked on Spawn. Dan's worked on Spider-Man. Dave has worked on Green Lantern. I mean, these guys have done a lot. They've done Daredevil. They've done Inhumans, Thor, Ghost Rider over Trincanugo. I mean, they've done some amazing stuff. So I wanted to make sure that everybody's getting a quality product. It's a 32-page book. Just because I want to make sure that you're getting enough artwork in there, And again, I did a fun story. It's all action-packed sequentials. I play around with my camera angles a lot in there. There's going to be bonus materials. I've got a lot of pinups. I've got a crossover piece of Passion with another guest character, which is pretty cool, and I'm excited for when I actually get to show that off in color. But and I leave the story open-ended for future opportunities and issues. My goal actually is to work on issue number 2 while I'm running the campaign for number 1, once I get everything assembled. Because I don't want anybody to wait longer than they have to on my book. So I'm making sure that most of the production is done before I even hit that launch button. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So that way, as soon as the campaign's over, I can finish getting all my ducks in a row with the production end of things and taking care of my guys, the people that I'm having help me out on this stuff. Because I brought in my buddy Kel Nuttall. He's doing my letters. He did my logo, and I'll probably be bringing in some other people to help with some other little bits and pieces of graphic design and assembly. But yeah, as soon as the campaign is launched, then I can get everything settled and taken care of that I still owe them. And then once the campaign's over, all I've got to do is hit print and then start fulfilling once I get everything in. So hopefully it goes that simply.
Now, where do you print out from? I mean, there's a lot of printers we have today,
So
in the US.
The printer that I used for the preview book was Comics Wellspring.
Okay.
But since this was just an 8-page book, it was really cheap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for the full book, since it's 32 pages of story, and my last page count was 42 or 44, because I was going off the Comics Wellspring numbers of preset printing page counts. Sorry. I think it was 44 or 46 that I was going with. So I'll probably go through Comics Wellspring again. It kind of just depends on how I can get things priced.
Yeah. And I've seen a lot of people, especially on Kickstarters, using them because they have a quality product when it comes out. I've seen some iffy ones coming out of Kickstarter. Like it looks like somebody had taken and copied it, like a copy, and then they slapped it on a cover. I'm like, and I actually told one of the guys that had, I'm like, this don't look good, and I said, if I'm saying this to you, I bet you somebody else is going to look at it too, because it looks like a photocopy that just got printed on. I'm like, it doesn't look like the original. And sometimes mistakes happen, and I get that too. I am a long time, Kickstarter and Indiegogo guy, but I also understand mistakes do happen, and most people will fix it. There are some out there that take a long time. I'm not going to say who's some of them are, but there's opportunities, and I've seen with Wellspring that they rapidly do things too. Literally, within a couple of weeks. I buy a lot of stuff from Merc, from Merc Publishing.
Yep. Big fan of theirs.
So anytime Miss Meow, Death Rage, Born of Blood, or anything or even the Legends side, the Legends Publishing that just kicked off, they get their stuff and it comes in and comes out real fast. But they have a lot of Kickstarters going on at the same time. So you've got to like, you're really looking at, all right, when's this coming in? When's coming out? But the main thing I've learned is communication. As long as you communicate, you're fine.
Yeah.
When you dry up and you don't say nothing and I paid you money, that's two different things, in Kickstarter land now. Because you got so many people that are vocal that'll go out there. Doesn't mean you need to sit on your computer and then just harass people though. There's a catch 22. People have real lives outside of comics too. They need to understand that. That's why, like for me, I'm glad that as soon as you hit the button, I'm going to buy it. Because I know I've known you for a while. You're going to take care of me, so I'm not worried. Um, and I can't wait to see where the story goes, man. Like just
Yeah.
seeing this preview. I mean, like this reminds me of the old ash cans, like we used to get, in the '90s. Like anytime with like a wizard, you remember when we had Wizard magazines? You get an ash can, like, ooh, this is cool.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. That's exactly what I was going for, dude. I'm a big fan of all that stuff, all those old school promo materials. In fact, I'll probably end up doing a second run of these with an exclusive cover, which you'll definitely get a copy of that, by the way. But just not only to give everybody a second chance at this, because I'm actually running pretty low on these. A lot of people snatch these up. But also just to throw out another cool piece of art, because a lot of those preview books back then had variants. And one of the things I also want to do is keep everything affordable. I find it's really hard sometimes to back projects because sometimes I'm running a little tight on cash. Maybe I bought one too many toys that week. Or just sometimes, man, some books are just a little unobtainable. So I want to make sure that, I keep things fair for everybody. That's why, again, I only have 5 covers. I'm not yanking you with any extra variants. I'm not doing the foils. I'm not doing any of that other stuff. I'm giving you 5 unique things. So even though you're buying the same book 5 times, you at least get 5 different things to look at on the surface. And then I'll have the preview book as an add-on also, so that way you have an extra variant, another unique piece to look at. Even though it's the same thing that you have here, it's not the same thing but in black and white. You know what I mean? Yeah. Or it's the same thing but shiny. Because while that stuff's really cool and I dig that, I can't do that right now. You know what I mean? It's not only one thing that I really just can't justify affordability wise, but also it's not how I want to try and hook people in right now, because what I'm trying to do is build an audience, and that's hard to do when I'm demanding just everything of them, because I know it's hard. I'm a guy that likes to collect everything, and it sucks when you can't obtain everything. I like to collect them all, and I want to make sure that everybody that supports me, if they can do so and they want to do so, that they have the opportunity to be able to collect everything.
And I collect a little bit of everything. Anything from original art to tons and tons of comics. But the catch 22 is like, you've been through just like I did when you're trying to get that run done on that certain comic run. You're like, crap, I need this one, I need this ash can, I need this preview, and you finally get all of it. And you're like, this is awesome, because you feel as a collector that you've achieved something, that you've got it. Same way with, like, for me, I'm a huge Transformers guy. I mean, as you can see here, I'm a huge Transformers guy, but I'm also a Universal Monsters guy. So I love collecting those kind of things. So I'm always trying to get that updated and in here. But you also know too that you can't have everything.
Yeah, so for sure.
So what you do is you make sure you get the ones that you want. Every one of us do the same thing in Kickstarter. Like I'll, typically when I see a Kickstarter, I buy the A cover. I always like getting the original trade dress cover of a book. And then I'll pick a couple of the variants that go throughout there, especially if it's artists and writers and people that I know. I'm like, okay, this person doing this cover. Let me grab this one. Let me grab that. Oh, they're like Shikari. I love Shikari's work, So anytime I see his, I'm like, let me grab that one. Maybe if it's cheap, like I saw last time, the metal was actually cheaper than the foil, which blew my mind. I'm like, because usually metals are anywhere from $85 to $100 at a Kickstarter, and foils are 60 to 70. I'm like, but it was the reverse. I'm like, dude, I'm grabbing the metal for that one because it looked good on metal, not just on paper. And some things do, some things don't. I mean, some things don't really transfer well to metal. Just because you can doesn't mean you should all the time.
Well, and like with some of that stuff, it's like never say never. But it's an expensive endeavor to get into, to print all that stuff.
Hmm.
So while I know some people might be a little disappointed that I wouldn't offer the option potentially, and I appreciate the support preemptively, right? It's not necessarily a risk I'd be willing to take right now, but it's something that I might consider in the future if maybe I did a second print run,
Hmm.
or maybe a convention exclusive or something like that. It's like never say never because of course, being a collector myself, I like to collect my work too. So it's kind of interesting to see all the different materials that I get printed on. Like for like covers that I do, it's cool when something goes to black and white, or it's cool when it goes to foil or metal, which so far I haven't had any of that. I haven't had a chromium, I haven't had a holofoil, I haven't had a metal, I haven't had a gold, I haven't had a silver. Best I've gotten is virgin black and white and then just standard colors. So, I've just gotten the base ones. So, of course, the best way to do that would be to do it myself. But as of right now, that's not something that I'm even entertaining the option of.
Yeah, and to me that's okay because you know why? We're actually getting to see the regular art
Yep.
first. You know, you get to see that first at your face kind of thing. Like I support. It was called Cat Cat Kid or something like that. It was a like little thing that April Reyna and a couple other people were doing. They would support the kids, and what they did is they did the old school covers like we used to have in the 80s. Remember, like the bubble jet, kind of look, that we had in the 80s. They did that throughout the whole book, and it was freaking awesome.
That's cool.
You know, and I was like, I love seeing like things outside of the box like that because it's actually artwork, not just stereotypical panel. We put this in the panel and we put
Well,
this. You know,
so like, yeah, and I'm not Jim Lee yet. I'm not J. Scott Campbell yet. Art wise or art quality wise. But I study all these guys and I like to get in their head and see how they lay out their books. And so while not everything in here is going to be masterfully crafted, just because it's not the thing that I do necessarily daily as far as sequentials go.
mhm.
But sequentials are a fun thing to do and they're important to comics. One thing that I love to do is play around with the background and just really fill up the page full of characters. You know, like this is a strip club scene where there's tons of people everywhere. You got the lights, you got the VIP back room with a chick dancing and some silhouettes. Tons of people. I'm hiding people all through the book. I'm using zipatone in areas. I'm really just kind of playing around with my layouts here because it's all about having fun and telling a story in a unique way, even when things maybe don't necessarily, you know, mesh well. It's all about experimentation. So, there's some further pages in the book. I'm just having fun, man. Changing it up, doing things the way I don't see them done necessarily. Because that's what they did in the 90s, and that's what I aspire to do.
Oh yeah, them good old boys in Image. When they first started out, Image and Valiant. It's like seeing Valentino do his thing, Will Portasio. Those kind of people. They just had fun when they went through their artwork. Was it printed a whole lot? Yes, it was, and it was a lot of Valiant covers out there and a lot of things. But you know what? They had fun doing it. They created so much artwork that you know what it is when you see it.
Yeah,
And I think that's what I've seen a lot of artists is like they want you to be able to see it. If you just see it randomly and know who drew it,
yeah.
it's like, oh, that's Gabe's, that's Andrews, that's Brian Kincaid, that's Marat Michael. Like you see that design, Marissa Pope, Mike DeBalfo, those kind of guys. Um,
You
that I think
know,
that's what a lot of us wanted to see.
at the end of the day, I just want to be memorable. Um, just like all the guys that I admire. And so that's what I want to do. And again, not that I want to just like step away from my dad because we're super tight and we do a lot of things hand in hand. That's kind of just part of who we are. But I do like distinguishing myself a little bit from him, and even he's admitted that you can really start to tell that we're kind of going slightly different directions stylistically. Quality wise, he still beats me because he's got 15 years ahead of me. But I'm catching up to him real fast.
Oh yeah. Well, and that's just timing. It's really comes down to like, for
Absolutely,
example,
time and
like,
practice.
and it's like the age. So how old are you, by the way?
22.
You're 22. I'm 40. Okay, so I've been around in comics a lot longer than you have, but guess what? That doesn't change our love for the industry and
Yep.
our love to see what's going to go in the future. What that means is that I might know some things more than you do, so I should impartate that knowledge to you. And it's like what your dad does with you. He'll teach you how to go through things, and you'll learn something just on your own too. No different than anybody else. Is that we want to have fun and do this together, provide a good product, and provide something that you want to enjoy and come back to. If I come back to your book every time I say, "Hey, where's issue 2? Where's issue 3, 4, or 5?" If we get to like issue 100, I'm like, all right, I'm still reading your book. Then you've had a lifer at that point. If they're saying that long, they're going to be with you. But what you don't want is, okay, it looked good, and then you had one book, you had two books, you had three books, then you get lost. I've seen some artists get lost in the books, and it's because there's just so much to go on, and then it becomes repetitive. And I think that's the hard thing is that I always wondered that with artists, like, you guys have to go through so much repetition on things too. Like, you got X amount of covers you got to put out, X amount of sequentials you got to put out. Do things get stuck in limbo? Like, hey, do I have to like take my time? Take longer time, maybe not take as many roles and as many covers, as many, just to get it the way you really wanted to. And what the answer I usually get is if I can't do it the way I want to do it, I'm not going to do it.
Well, and
You know,
that's the answer you should get, quite frankly,
you
because
know,
the more that you force yourself to do things that you can't work through, the more the quality of your work is going to hurt. And we've seen that plenty of times before in a lot of these books lately. And that's not something that brings a fan back. It's actually something that will lose you fans and lose you customers and lose audience members. Um, and that's always a looming fear too, even for someone that's fairly fresh faced and still figuring out what he's doing in certain areas, like myself. There is that looming fear of repetition and redundancy. But then I have to remind myself of, well, there's like 100 years worth of comic books to study. And
mhm.
that's the thing I feel like a lot of guys stepping in forget is you don't need to necessarily only study Jim Lee and Todd McFarlane. You need to go back and study Gil Kane, my guy. You need to go study Mike
Well,
Zeck. You need to go study John Byrne. You need to go study Siegel and Schuster. You need to go study Will Eisner. You know what I mean? You need to
yeah,
go back to the golden age and look at how comics were laid out. You need to go look at how they pop in certain areas. You need to look at the quality of the covers. You need to look at the dynamics of the book itself. You need to go back to the Silver Age and do the exact same thing, because you need to look at what's worked subsequently for decades and decades and decades without audiences getting sick of it. And that's the thing too. Nobody dips back that far into history. They don't learn from it. And then what do? They do the same cookie cutter bullshit all the time.
how many
You know what I mean?
crises have we seen in DC in the last 15 years?
Exactly.
For, they just had
So,
another what Black Crisis, Dark Crisis thing. I'm like,
yeah.
and literally what they did is they wiped out the Rebirth era, went back to the pre 52 of what it was. I'm like, so and like I was a huge Jeff Adams. I love Jeff Johns. I loved Ivan Reese, those guys, and I love seeing everything they did. Ethan Skyber, that
Love
era
that
of
Skyber.
DC. Like I was happy when they brought back Barry Allen as the Flash. They brought back Hal Jordan as the Green Lantern. The Blackest Night is still one of my favorite stories. The Brightest Day part. I love that storyline. But when you start going into Infinite Crisis, Final Crisis, this crisis, that crisis, holy crap! They just brought back Pariah, who we killed off in 1985. And it's like it gets redundant. And
Yeah.
it keeps going in circles and circles. And your characters that you actually enjoy, you don't enjoy anymore. Like I was a huge Green Lantern fan, but all the way back to the Silver Age Green Lantern. You know, Gil Kane, Bill Finger. Martin Odell, Golden Age Green Lantern stuff. I love reading those stories and seeing how it came
Yeah.
through Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil, and then we had we had the '80s, the Green Lantern Corps era. That was okay. We brought, we got Guy Gardner, you got John Stewart, you got those characters, but then it kind of went downhill again, and then it rocked back up. I'll tell you, the worst story I've read from Green Lantern is the new Morrison run. I hated that story. A lot of people loved it. I hated it because I'm like, you just killed Hal Jordan, and you just made him one of the most incompetent people in the whole history. Which that's not his backstory. You know, his backstory is he's a flyboy, he's a woman, he's a ladies' man, he's making having fun, doing with everything. It's like that was my story, and maybe that it's me being old too. You know, it's like being older. I have an expectation of my characters to be. And when you change them forever, nah. I'll go back to what I know is working. You know, like I go back to Lady Death, I go back to Razor, I go back to She, Vampirella, those things. I will say the new Vampirella is not as good as the old one. You
Yep.
know, give me Harris Vampirella any day over Dynamites. But I will also say there is some good stories there too, in Dynamite.
A
So
lot of great work too.
exactly, and that's like I picked up the Mike Chrome and the Colette Turner's Purgatory Must Die. That story is actually really good. It just there's some plot holes in it, you know, that kind of makes it kind of yeah. But I love the artwork, especially the covers from it. So I'll keep buying it for the cover work. That's how you hook people in. You hook
Yeah.
people back in the way that you want to, you know, to keep them engaged, keep them coming back, and that's what I do. You know, it's like your dad's been doing it for a while. I've been, you know, I read all the Evil Ernie stuff he did. You know, when he went through all the BS, you know, of that stuff. You know, and I hated seeing that happen. But to me, that artwork is still good. You know, it ain't Stephen Hughes. It's okay. It's not Stephen Hughes. You know, there's been lots of people who've done Evil Ernie. And it's like for you, I want to see your take on other characters as well. You know, see where you go with it because everybody's different and everybody should be different. That's how
Yeah.
it's supposed to be.
Well, I mean, we can only hope. Characters that I would love to work on: Scud the Disposable Assassin,
Oh yeah, I remember Scud.
Zen Intergalactic Ninja. That's been a long time goal character. The Ninja Turtles. Wanted to work on them since like middle school. Spawn, big Spawn fan. I've got a pretty sizable amount of the books out there. I'm like 70 issues away from completing 1 through 300, including all the mini series and side series from like 98 to 05. Um, Definitely not worthy, but if there was another Danger Girl story, I would love to throw my hat in the ring to at least do a pinup. That I love that fucking book. That is probably Danger Girl 1 through 7 is probably the single greatest standalone series of the 90s, in my opinion. Just as far as story goes, it's a witty, fun story. Doesn't take itself too seriously. It knows what it's mimicking. It's fucking awesome. Well written, really well done, funny, great. The artwork, beautiful. The storytelling is amazing. It's something that I look at every single day. Like the amount of Danger Girl #1s that I have is staggering at this point, as far as individual print runs, right? Um, so I would love to get to draw, say, Abby Chase on something published, even if it's like for not even for an actual Danger Girl book, but even if I could just draw her once in a printed material, that'd be great. I would love to throw my hat in with Chastity.
Oh yeah.
I don't think I am good enough for Ernie. Quite frankly, I can't compete with my dad at all. It'd be cool to do Purgatory just once. Like if I could at least touch any, or not any Chaos character, but every Chaos character at least once, that'd be great. Just to quench the inner fanboy, that'd be phenomenal. And I'd say the last thing I'd really want to work on would be Spider-Man and G.I. Joe. Those are universes that would be important for me to work on. But like just going back a little bit, backtracking, talking about how comics have just been repeating themselves. I think people need to create more on their own. I think we need more new shit. We don't need to rehash shit with new ideas. We need to make new ideas in the same vein as the old. You know what I mean? We need to model ourselves after the old ways, but create new shit instead of ruining the legacies of all of these older characters that are beloved by certain audiences. It's okay for some things to fade away, you know, because there's always the history to enjoy. Uh, like, you know, and that's what we're seeing from the big two lately is just hey, we're not really feeling it to create these new characters like we were 20 and 30 years ago, but we've got these ideas we want to use, slap them on whoever this week. And I'm
Yeah.
kind of sick of that shit. If you want to do something different, create your own character, because that just shows an immense lack of creativity, or at least that's my hot take on that.
Well, a good example, like Wolverine was my favorite Marvel character of all time. I remember in the '80s reading it. Him in the X-Men being in the Outback, getting stripped to the freaking cross. The X cross, and that was the story that really brought me in to reading Wolverine. So I ended up going to the back and figuring out everything. Okay, comes from here, does that, and then Weapon X came out from Barry Windsor Smith, and that was such a like refreshing story to read. Like
Awesome.
seeing him go through everything that he did to get to where he's at today. I was like, and it was in Marvel Comic Presents. And if you don't know what it is, people out there in YouTube land, just look up Marvel Comic Presents in Google, and you'll find out that it's a 4-story book. They would always have it'd be like 8 pages per
It was a
per
flip
story.
book.
Yep, and it was always a flip book typically, and it would have all these stories, and you could read these stories and keep going, and you get through some great information like Typhoid Mary. They had a lot of Typhoid Mary in Marvel Comic Presents, Ghost Rider, Daredevil, Wolverine stories. Hell, I mean, I remember Jay Lee doing stuff in Marvel Comic Presents, and
Sam
then
Keith did some
Sam
really cool
Keith.
Wolverine stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean and that's where you get like the weird Wolverine with his hair going out like this, from Sam Keith. And that's before Max and everything came out. But I was just like, I love those kind of stories.
Yeah.
And then so I was reading it for a long time, read it, and then like it just kept being repetitive. And then they turned him into an animal because they tried to give him his adamantium back, and then they turned him into. I'm like, all right, really? You just destroyed
When
Wolverine.
he wore the bandana.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So, and luckily every one of us kept complaining to Marvel saying this is an idiot thing to do. And they end up turning them back to normal. I'm like, all right, great. And then you go flashback a couple years from ago. Okay. They made him the Phoenix of all things, and they gave him like these hot claws. Like he's supposed to be like Phoenix claw. I'm like, I'm done. I never want to read a Wolverine book again at that point, and it's sad. It's really sad because they alienated their fans, their longtime fans. And that's why, I mean, I don't understand how Marvel makes as much money as they do as far as comic books. MCU stuff, I get that all day. The movies I get, they're good movies. There's some iffy shows sometimes, but the comics, I don't understand how they keep selling the way they do it. Spider Man's always going to sell. That's just Spider Man. That's how it is. Fantastic Four just came back. That's going to sell because it's been gone for almost 20 years. I mean, Hickman's run was the last run on Fantastic Four, but it's just sad to see like the state of those big two and what they've done.
Well, I think that just opens up the floodgates for the independents to come in and take over. And something too, dude, is I think sequential art is starting to hurt a lot in comics. And it's because, people aren't allowed to do what they want to do because, then another image would happen. Um, and I think that's where the independents succeed is you don't have anybody to answer to and you can do whatever you want. You can experiment, you can do fun shit. But that's also where I was going to go back and say you need to study more, people need to study comics more and study the art very specifically because comics is a beautiful medium in the sense that you don't necessarily need the words to be able to read the story. The most important thing is that it's a sequential book and that you can sit there and look at a picture and get the story out of it. And I think where a lot of modern comics are hurting is it's all talking. You know what I mean? It's panel for panel fucking faces. So
Mm-hmm.
unless you're doing really expressive faces, if you can't read that fucking dialogue, looks like you're not knowing what's going on in the slightest.
Yeah.
And comics are also all about action. They're an escape. They're a fantasy. You know what I mean? Whenever you read a comic, you're not reading a fucking conversation you can have with Jimbo down the street. You're reading about, extraordinary beings that can do shit nobody could ever think of or be able to do, or adventures that nobody could ever partake in the real world. And so I think where we're losing a lot of this shit is by not drawing cool shit anymore, by not having cool pages anymore. That's a lot of the art form gone right there is if we're just doing these panel for panel, almost stat panels, we're losing half of what makes this medium special. You know, if we're just storyboarding, it just gets boring real quick. And then you tack on some fucking slapdash story onto it that's ruining the legacy of the characters. It just makes everything really frustrating to read, you know?
And it's hard. It really is because
Yeah.
like a good friend of mine, he writes Niobe and he does he has it drawn for him, and I've been reading that book forever. It's part of Antarctic Press, and it's like I get more satisfaction out of stories like that where yes, you don't get it every month. It's okay if you don't get that book every month because they're taking their time and they're putting the writing, the artistry. Does it make sense? And that's what I always go back to. Does this story make sense with the art that's in it? If it doesn't, then maybe don't put it out yet. Take your time, get it right, then put it out. And then
Yeah.
because people are going to respect it more, they're going to want to come back and read it again.
And there's also the sentiment too of listen to criticism.
Yep.
I think too many people put up their guard and they're like, well, no, this is perfect. This is just the way it is. It's like, no, I don't know. You should probably listen to the guys that have been reading comics for X amount of years. They're the ones that are going to support your book. So, like, if you read Passion 1 and then you read 2 and you're like, hey, there's kind of a continuity error here, maybe point it out to me. Maybe, like, not publicly, but, like, PM me about it
Mhm.
because I need to know that shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be able to write a better story if you don't tell me that what I wrote first sucked, you know? That's the thing, to get better, you have to be told that you're terrible at some point. That's
And
exactly how I've learned to draw. It's,
and that's
like, people always ask me, right? They're like, oh, so, your dad's a comic book artist. So what? He just teach you how to draw? No, I fucked around and found out, it's literally what happened was he saw enough potential. And so he started giving me shit to do and he started observing me. And then from there it comes harsh criticism. It's like, that's not how you fucking draw an arm. Or, that's fucked up, or that looks shitty, that's stiff, that looks bad, And then, there's the course correction where it's like, hey, that's not how you draw a nose, or yeah, that's passable, but this is how you should do it next time. Then that's how you learn by watching somebody else do it over your mistake. You know what I mean? So that's how I've learned to draw is by being fed super harsh criticism. And so that's how I feel I've improved personally. And that's how I will always continue to improve is by harsh criticism. So I think more people should take that approach. And maybe I'm wrong for saying that, but that's just me personally because I don't know. I feel like sometimes anger is the best motivator
well,
in a creative medium, at least, because there's the beauty of being able to get your emotions out onto a page, be it verbally or in a written way or via the art form.
and the creativity piece is that part is
Mm-hmm.
hey, okay, I'm reading this, but like the way I read it might not be the same way somebody else reads it.
Yeah.
The artist, I look at the art, I'm like, okay, I think this versus that. Everybody has their own opinion, but sometimes like the criticism piece is what helps it. It grows it. It makes it better. Like if I see three panels together, I'm saying this doesn't make sense. Why is or like they're out of order? Now I would be the first person to tell you that, and the reason why is I want you to be better. I want you to succeed. I don't want it to be coming back saying, well, it's okay. Just let it go.
Yeah.
I'm like, no.
Well, like, imagine if a tech company released a really, really fucking great phone, but it didn't do one very specific thing that it needs to do. Like, it didn't fucking connect to Bluetooth despite having the feature. But they didn't listen to everybody telling them that it didn't work. You know what I mean? Because they thought that it was just great. Well, guess what? Nobody's going to buy their fucking next phone.
Yep.
You know?
And that's how it's going to go. I mean, literally, you've got to be open to that criticism. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, and I do editing and I read stuff for people too. And I'll tell them, hey, I'm looking at the story. We get from here to here, but there's no in between. Like, what happened in between here? Because, like, for example, you're here and now you're here. How did you get there? There's a creative piece of like, hey, he went here through this, whatever. Or like the best part, I saw one. All right, they were in this country, now they're in this country. Okay, where did that? What happened in between? Like, where did you go? And I'll be the first person to tell you, like, I'm not great either, but I'll just take a look at it and I'll give you my 2 cents. And it's because I've read for books for so long. I mean, I've been reading comics since '86. So, and I'm reading old stuff back then. So, and that's like, I love Silver Age for that reason. Silver Age, Bronze Age stuff. 90s, there were some good stories in the 90s, don't get me wrong. But there's a lot of crappy stories in the 90s too.
Well, at least the
Uh,
art made up for it.
exactly.
So,
Um,
like I said, even if the story doesn't make sense, you still get the art out of it. You can still put something together in your head. And that's one of the things that got Jim Lee into comics, being, an immigrant, was, he could look at the pages of, say, X-Men and understand what's going on despite not knowing how to read English at the time.
yeah, and like I remember, I got his first book that he did inking on. Not even artistry,
Oh,
just inking.
Samurai Santa?
Samurai, yep, and that old Treasury. And I'm like, I remember when I got that, and I'm looking at, I'm like, I could. It didn't look like Jim Lee, that you were normal to see because it was like, where's his draw? Oh no, he just inked the book. That's all he did. And I'm like, and even back then, you could see like where he was going with his style of inking. Like you could see where it was going. I'm like, okay. Then you start seeing like Uncanny X-Men 248 come out. Okay, you see his first covers. You see his work. Got it. Jim Lee's just one person. You know, you also had Wills Portacio. You had Fabian Nunez, Adam, and Andy Kubert at the time. Though, during those 90s time frame, you had so many artists on X-Men, X Factor, X Work, Liefeld, for example. Liefeld can't draw feet to save his life, don't get me wrong. But if you want somebody to draw a big Cable or a big Deadpool, he's your guy. He's the one who does. I mean, if you want 8,000 pouches, he'll make it work. And guess what? He's creative like that too. Liefeld does a lot of stuff like that, like little details that you don't see because you just see big Cable, big, whatever. But read Youngblood, go through Strike File, go through all those books, and you'll see the cohesiveness that the art brought together into the book. The story might not have been the easiest to read, but you could tell from the art from Liefeld how to go through it.
Ah, yeah, no, I mean, I love all that stuff, dude. Image is my biggest source of reference, you know? Um, as far as like whenever I want to look at a dynamic and exciting page on it, I always go to Image books. The things that I always have like sitting on my art table or besides my art table, of course, Danger Girl. I have Eric Bossadua's Magdalena miniseries.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have McFarlane's Amazing Spider-Man run next to me at all times. I have Spawn number 100 besides me at all times. And I generally keep a pretty safe supply of a mixture of Darkness, Youngblood, and occasionally Jim Lee X-Men when I want to pull it out. I've got a lot of it. So it kind of gets to be a lot to manage. And then I also I have Team 7 by me at all times, the
Oh
first
yeah.
volume of it, because I really love the page layouts in that book.
Yeah, I remember when those came out, especially when Silvestri was doing artwork too. Like that was one of my favorite runs. Like Larry Hama on freaking Wolverine with Silvestri on art. I'm like, dude,
In the
I,
late 40s.
and
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to see more of that stuff. I'm like, just bring more of that stuff. I'm like, and then it cried up after 75, and then, but luckily we got Adam Kubert at that point, to keep it going. But I was like, that drawing, like I remember when I bought that Wolverine 50 with the die cut cover,
The flash going through the
yeah,
file.
yeah, and then the Shiva draw coming out, Sylvester drawed it. I'm like, oh, I want that artwork again, and then it was never there. I mean, it was gone. The only thing I ever saw Sylvester after that really was he went back to Witchblade, and then he went back to Cyberforce, and I'm like, when Cyberforce came back out a couple of years ago, dude, I was over the moon. They said we're bringing a new Cyberforce story. I bought every issue. I had no problem with that, and I'm looking at it, and Stryker was in it, and everything. I'm like, this
Was that the
was
one
where
where they threw Aphrodite in it?
it is. Aphrodite IX was in it too, and it was a good story. I mean, and it made sense too. Like, all right, they start with Rip Claw. They brought everybody, and they brought everybody together. I'm like, it was just a reimagining, of like how it is in modern times. And you can see where Silvestri's art in Cyberforce back from the 90s till the 90s of today, you can see how it's translated. A lot different. It's still Silvestri, but it's a lot more refined. That's what I've seen.
I mean, I'll always have a soft spot for the Finch run of Cyberforce
Mm,
more than probably Mark's, just because Finch is just a lot of freshness. I love the issue where Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti's Ash guest
mm-hmm.
stars in it. It's like issue like 27 or 28. Don't quote me on that. But it was like it was a few issues into Finch's run.
Yeah, see, I read the whole run, and I'm buying everything from Top Cow. With all these Kickstarters coming out, like I just backed the new Witchblade one because I love Witchblade. I love Basilda. I loved all the work that Ebas did on Witchblade and Magdalena. Oh yeah,
Now that's my volume one sketch from Mark.
yeah.
So
Yep, I missed out on volume one and volume two because I wasn't back into comics heavy. So I said when I found out that they were doing this volume three and that you can get both volume one and two, I jumped on all three of them. I'm like, I'm gonna have all three of them, and when they do the darkness one, I'll grab all the darkness ones as well because I love that story, and I really love the freaking game too. The darkness game from PS2, that was my jam back then.
I really enjoyed the darkness when Joe Benitez took over.
Mm,
It got really fun. I love everything that he did with the Darklings. I love when Magdalena comes in when they fight for the first time.
mm-hmm.
Like when he drew that Star Wars toy display, that shit was great. And she's getting just thrown around the store. That was awesome. Not necessarily that she was being beat up, but just the page layouts and the art itself is awesome. The way Darkness gets his ass kicked too, it's great. Well, the way Jackie gets his ass kicked is great.
Yeah,
Um,
the hard part is like when they took the darkness away from him. I mean, when they took it away from Jackie and then they gave it around, I'm like, come on, give it back to Jackie. Stop playing around. And I
I mean, that's far out for me. I haven't gone that far into the Darkness lore. I kind of stick below the first two volumes
mm,
or the early run of volume two. Um, volume two. Am I thinking? I'm thinking right. Yeah.
yeah,
I
volume
don't know.
two.
I'm tired, dude. I've been up since midnight today. So
You need to get some rest, brother.
yeah. Well, I was out late last night too. So I'm on the circuit right now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's why I love stories like that. And if we keep stories like that entertaining for everybody, it makes it fun. And I have a blast. And that's why I want to see you guys do great. And I want to keep pushing you guys wherever I go. Like when I go to Expo, you guys know I always come by. I'll be like, hey, Gabe, Andrew, what are you doing? Where's my books? But so kind of talk about your toys a little bit. So as you see, I see all your toys behind you. And you see all the toys behind me, of course. But um, this is something that you don't see a whole lot. Is that where artists and writers are collectors of toys in protect? Like you see a lot of them, they're original art collectors or they're comic collectors. But so you've been a toy collector. So how long have you been collecting?
My whole life. I mean, really though, like realistically, I didn't start like legitimately collecting until I had actual income. When I started working at 16. But of course, I had a decent collection for as a kid. But I really did not start getting into gear until I was like 17, 18. That's when I really started buying the cool shit. Um, I've got a lot, dude. Like, I've got a lot of really fun stories with some of the stuff that I've bought. Like, I've got a GI Joe General from 1990 complete. I went to Waco for that because I bought that and I bought a bunch of other vehicles from the Joe assortment from 91 and 1990. And I bought a bunch of figures with it too. It was a great trip. Me and my dad went out there. That was a fun memory because that's a fucking great vehicle. I've got like the fucking Rolling Thunder complete in box. Like
Mm,
I told you earlier, I've got like
yeah.
60 vintage carded Joes. They're on those clamshell star cases. Got a shitload of carded Spawn figures. I've got statues. I've got a couple hundred Transformers. A lot of that spread out between G1, both Hasbro and Takara G1 and
Hmm.
reissues. I've got shit going from G2 all the way to the current day. I'm buying the legacy stuff right now.
Yeah.
I'm buying GI Joe Classifieds. I've bought two of every single figure that's come out so far, except for a handful. Other like weird lines that I collect. I have half of the original Masters of the Universe line complete. I've got a quarter of the original G.I. Joe line complete, which, mind you, I have over 162 figures loose complete from the original Joe run, because that is a daunting line to collect. Like, I never want to hear shit from Star Wars collectors that think that the original, like, 92 or whatever is hard to collect. Fuck you. I could have completed 2 runs of Star Wars by now if that's what I was collecting. You know what I mean?
Yep.
G.I. Joe is it's such a passion for me, but it's such a pain in the ass at the same time. I collect TMNT, both spread across the original line and the 2012 line. The 2012 line has a soft spot with me. I really enjoyed that line. I didn't like the show, but I love the toys that came out. Those came out at a good time for me. I collect wrestling figures. I've got Bucky O'Hare shit.
Oh yeah.
I've actually got a signed Bucky. Michael Golden signed it. I need Larry to sign it too. I would have loved to have had Neil sign it, but unfortunately that can't happen.
Yeah.
I've got all the Savage Dragon figures from the TMNT assortment in like 95. What the fuck else do I have? I've got a lot of shit. And it's like, what don't I collect, honestly? I have a shitload of Marvel Legends. Actually, right behind me, I have a near complete set of Playmates Wildcats.
Yeah, I hate you now.
I have every figure but the first release Warblade loose complete, and I almost have every single figure carded also. I'm missing like 5 from my carded set.
Yeah, see, I've got the box sets. I collected all of those like when they came out, when Zealot and all of that. I was like, they came out in a 2-pack and a box. I'm like, I'm gonna grab all of these, and
I think they did 2 box sets, they did 3 jumbos, and I think they did 18 single carded figures, if I remember correctly.
Yep, and that's why it was kind of sad when DC bought out Wildstorm, and the only figure we've got really so far was that Grifter that came out last year.
And he doesn't even have guns.
He doesn't have no gun because they don't do guns for DC because that's the license.
And it's like the Infinite Crisis version. It's not even the fucking cool trench coat one, or at least the cool one where he had the fucking wife beater on.
Yeah.
Man, dude, I also collect like Hasbro Cops and Crooks and Visionaries and shit too.
See, now Visionaries, I remember all about those Herculoids, the humanoids. It's like I remember collecting all those when I was a kid. But like my passion's always Transformers, always has been. Mask.
I've got a test shot Energon Demolisher. What else do I have? I told you about some of the cool Japanese stuff I have. I've got a couple masterpieces. I have an arcade cabinet too. What else? I own a couple parts to 2 different covers for G.I. Joe 298 and 300 from Jamie Sullivan. I have an original Duke sketch from Larry Hama. What else do I have? I've got a lot of really cool shit. There's a lot of cool shit that I don't even want to say that I have, quite frankly. I collect posters too of some of my favorite artists. Like I have a ton of Campbell posters. One of my favorites is I have the THQ giveaway poster for the Danger Girl video game on PS1, which my copy of Danger Girl on the PS1 is also a Blockbuster copy, so it's got the Blockbuster tag, which is really cool. I have most of the original run of Danger Girl. I've got almost all the variants. I'm missing a couple, but the ones that are like a fucking pain in the ass to find. I collect a lot of art books too, because again, I'm always studying work. I've got a lot of foreign G.I. Joe stuff too. I have color guides. I have a ton of G.I. Joe pages from the Devil's Due run of America's Elite. Yeah, I collect a lot of shit. Like I could literally write you a fucking book on all the shit that I collect. Like I told you earlier, what you see behind me isn't even a full 10th of my loose collection. And I don't even know how much shit I have boxed or carded at this point. And the thing too is, dude, I mean, like I bargain hunt too. I negotiate. I try and buy in lots. I know when to walk away, but then some things are like too tempting, some shit you walk away from it and you never get it for that price ever again, or you never find it again. I'm also very pro reproduction for my toys, because at the end of the day, dude, like not enough people my age collect this shit. So all this stuff is going to drop in value at some point.
Yeah.
So I think people that collect for value are doing it for the wrong reasons. It's like with my GI Joe collection, right? I restore a lot of my vehicles that I buy. Most of the time, I use original parts, but like I just completed a Mauler, the
Mm.
motorized tank, the beige one from '85.
Yep.
It's based on the prototype of the Abrams tank. I bought reproduction parts for the antennas, the mud flaps, the grenade launchers, and the tow cable. Because there's no fucking way I'm gonna pay $300 for all those parts combined. That's asinine for
No.
something that I paid $15 for at a flea market.
Yep.
You know, so a lot of the shit I do get for as good of a price as I can, and I've had a lot of help too over the years. I've had a lot of really generous people that have gifted me stuff. I've got fans that give me stuff, and like that's it warms my heart, dude. Like when people walk up to me like, "Hey, man, I know that you collect this. I was gonna get rid of it, but I figured I'd give it to you." That is like the fucking greatest thing to me. Not only because, of course, I get something really cool, but like it's just such a thoughtful thing. I always got to do something for them whenever that happens. It doesn't happen a lot, but it's happened before. Like a good friend of mine, he was actually getting rid of a bunch of his McFarlane figures for like
Mm.
no. He was just like, "Hey man,
Yeah.
these take up too much space. If you don't want them, I'm just gonna throw them away." I'm like, "Holy shit, dude!" I'm like, "Yeah, no, I would love those. Thank you." And there was a lot of really cool Art of Spawn figures in there that I cleaned up, and they sit on my shelf. So I've had a lot of help. I don't sell anything out of my collection, so because everything has a story, dude.
Mm.
Like I've got an '82 He-Man right here. Uh, this is actually the 25th figure I got from my He-Man collection. I didn't start with He-Man. I didn't get He-Man for like 3 years while I was collecting this line. But it's crazy to think, man, because I'm 22, right? This figure's
Mm.
41 years old,
Yep.
and it was 40 when I got him. To think who opened this back in '82 or '83, and how many hands it's been through in its journey to my shelf. You know what I mean? That's something that I always ponder, right? And it's even cooler though when I'm given something because that's a part of the story. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And a lot of that stuff is stuff that I take with me. I can sit there and point at um what's a good thing to point at here on the shelf? Okay. I've got a Spawn series 27 or 26, but it's the I.98 or
Mm.
I.99, whichever is the gargoyle cover. No, it's 98. It's
98.
98. It's I.98, but it was a club exclusive. And a buddy of mine worked at slash ran a comic book store that I went to when I was little, and that figure ended up surviving the closure of the shop because nobody picked it up. And so he had it for years and it just sat in a closet. And he brought it to me at a convention one time. He's like, "Hey, man, I figured you'd appreciate this because one, it came from the store that you used to frequent. And also, you collect Spawn." So that was really cool because it came from the comic book store that I used to shop at. And it came from a good friend of mine. And now it's open and it proudly sits on my shelf. It's one of my favorite Spawn figures. Um, or, like a lot of my favorite things actually have been given to me by people because it's just the sheer act of kindness and generosity. It's that sharing of fandom,
Yep.
because you always got to pay it forward too. um I always try to help people find stuff too whenever they find something for me or they allow me to add something to my collection, because that's what it's about. It's all a passion at the end of the day. And we all do this stuff for each other, because we're the ones that hold the fandoms up. um Other things that I really love in my collection are a lot of good shit. My NPO1 is really cool
Mm.
because I got that for a really good deal from a guy that I'm friends with now. I actually became friends with him because of the sale. Um, yeah, I got a lot of fucking great shit. That's the thing, dude. I admire my shelf because a lot of that has led me to personal friends. Be it I've bought
Yep.
something from them, or whatever. Or I met this particular person through collecting. It's really something that brings people together, and that's something that I love about it.
Well, and that's the thing is like we've always like I've always collected as well, especially with Transformers. A couple of buddy of ours, we were talking about it. I think it was yesterday. Like how long we've collected, what we've collected. Like it's changed over the years. Like at one point, like I collected every Marvel Legend that came out from Toy Biz all the way to through all the Hasbro to all the way current. And then I looked at it one day and I'm like, do I really need all of these? Do I really need everything, or can I just get away with the ones I really want? Like the team, like I'm an X Men guy, so I was especially all the X Men ones. I'm like, all right, and let me keep all these. But then I ended up giving and trading a lot of stuff, because there are collectors out there that want it just as bad as you do, and if you can help somebody out, to me, that's what it makes it worth it 100%
Mhm.
because you see that look on their face like, hey, they got something that they've been trying to get for years, especially like for me, it's comics right now. Like, I'm collecting all the ash cans from Chaos. That is
Good
a
luck.
pain in the ass, dude, to try to get some of these ash cans done. Some are count of 50, some are in the 600, some are 100. I'm like,
Some of them
holy,
are like 25.
yeah, especially like the blue covers or the yellow cover. I'm like, oh my god. Like I just got the Lady Death Purgatory cover, the ash can, limited to 666. I'm like, that book goes for $75 as an ash can. I'm like, because you just can't find it, you know. And I'm like, but I was so happy when I got it because like that's one more done, one more that's off of the list that I really wanted, and to me that is fun. I enjoy that part of collecting.
Oh
When
yeah,
you finally
100%.
get that one piece,
Well, and dude, it's really cool too because like it's an international thing. Like I know people overseas because of collecting. Like, like I've mentioned several times already, I'm a big J. Scott Campbell fan. And some of the coolest people I've met in the collecting community are also fans of his work. A good friend of mine uh, hooked me up on Christmas. He brought me some of his art books. I was like, holy shit, dude, you did not have to do that. But I fucking love these things, dude. I look at them every day because
hmm
it's just beautiful. But I got the European Dynamic Forces Art Adams cover for the Danger Girl special. And because I was buying a bunch of stuff from a buddy of mine in the UK that had a bunch of stuff that I couldn't find
yeah,
to level out a lot of my Danger Girl collection. And he's like, hey man, he's like, do you want all this other stuff? I'm like, I can't really, afford that right now. I'll just go with what I'm getting because I'm buying a lot of shit already. And, a couple days later, because like he shipped this like FedEx, so it showed up really fast. Lo and behold, there's this cover in there. I'm like, dude, holy shit, thank you. Like that was fucking amazing because that slashes not only one off the cover, but I'm like, you really didn't have to do that. And him and I are cool. I talk to him every couple of days. We're, becoming good friends and shit because I've bought a lot of stuff off of him. But we have a lot to talk about because of our mutual fandoms for 90s comic books, G.I. Joe, and J. Scott Campbell. So it's always interesting the type of people that you meet through the means of collecting, like I've said. Really cool thing to be a part of.
and it's the sad part is it's dying.
Mhm.
Like, you're seeing like I've been doing YouTube since 2016, 17. When I first started, everybody was toy hunting. Everybody was looking for stuff. Everybody was having, finding stuff, enjoying it, trading, whatnot. And
They're
then
driving those fucking prices up while they're doing that.
exactly, there was no reissues at the time. Remember, nothing was reissued at the time. So, like the 2-pack Dark Phoenix Cyclops pack was freaking outstanding because it was Toys R Us
I
exclusive.
never
Nobody.
found that, dude. That's such a sore spot for me.
I found 12 of those and guess what?
Jesus.
And I knew because where I was at, nobody hunted toys, so cream of the crop. So I did a lot of trades for those. Um, but that was really like the last big time because when COVID hit, that stopped a lot of collecting for people. Then the stimulus kicked in, and a lot of people wanted to buy toys, but they were buying through retailers. They weren't going to the stores. And then if you went to the store, it was always hit and miss. It's still a hit and miss today. Like,
It's more miss than hit.
I mean, we live in the same town, same areas. So it's like you go to Walmart, Target, you're going to see the same legacy, wave one that you've been seeing for months. I've
Dude,
never seen wave 2 or 3 or 4. I've got it through the
fucking
mail.
thank you. I was so pissed that I couldn't complete fucking Minosaur. All I have is drag strip, dude. I'm so pissed. Meanwhile, motherfuckers have fucking Metal Hawk, who just got announced.
I got Tarn. I just got him in, but yeah, I ordered online though. I mean, it's the thing. I bought all mine, pre-ordered mine through Amazon, and that's always hit and miss too now because like, okay, we're gonna do it this month. They say March, May. Oh no, we got it early. We're charging you now. Bam. I'm like,
see, dude, I can't deal with that inconsistency because I've fucked myself quite a bit with the pre-orders. I stopped pre-ordering any toys, bar none. I stopped pre-orders after the Zartan wave from G.I. Joe Classified like 2 years ago. I just stopped. I couldn't deal with that, dude. That inconsistent shit where it's like, hey, the expected delivery is this. I'm like, okay, now I know how to plan my money. All of a sudden, I'm fucking overdrafted, for a couple of days. That would piss me the fuck off. And I know that, probably should have, spent my money better, right? There's a lesson in that. But then at the same time, I just don't like that, dude. I like the idea of going into a store and toy hunting. Traditionally, that's what I do. That's half the reason I fucking go to the store. You know what I mean? One, it's to get the shit that I need to get, but then I pop over into the toy store and I'm hoping that I can find some shit because it makes my day more exhilarating. Because I can always get the instant gratification of buying it now. I might have to pay an inflated price, but I love going into retail because I walk out with it that day. I don't have to fucking wait for shipping. I don't have to wait for Amazon to fuck up the packaging by shipping in a fucking bubble mailer. It's that, like I said, instant gratification. I love that about retail toy hunting. And dude, I haven't really been able to do that effectively in years. And everybody else is in the same boat, more or less. But like occasionally I get lucky with the classifieds or like the WWE Legends.
Yeah.
I actually got lucky with the latest wave of TMNT reissues, the Walmart wave.
Yeah.
That has Leatherhead and Splinter and Shredder and Bebop and Rocksteady and Krang.
Yeah,
and those are all $10, which is a phenomenal deal, mind you. I lucked out and I just happened to walk into Walmart that day and they had a fucking full case. You know what else sucks, dude? Just to get me on this tangent real quick, is the distribution, man. Because like you look at case assortments now in toys, and a case of say 6 figures, that's the entire wave. Your store only got one. So guess what? If you're a collector that buys all of them, like me, I just took all the fucking figures. Or if someone like me comes in, they just took all the fucking figures.
Yep.
So that's why we can't find shit, because the store got enough for one guy.
Yep. Well, and luckily we have multiple Walmarts and multiple Targets to hunt at. But it's the same story with all the same places.
Exactly. Because if there's 12 of us in the area, and there's 4 Walmarts, well, you can do the math.
Exactly. You might you have a 1 in 3 chance. You might get it, you might not.
And you might just get the residuals. You know what pisses me off, dude? The classified release of Tomax and Zaymot.
Yeah.
They didn't release them as a 2-pack like they've historically almost always done, with the exception of like 2 releases of them. They've always been a 2-pack. These motherfuckers released them individually carded. So I only have fucking Zaymot.
Oh.
Because and my dad picked it up for me because he knew I was looking for him. But somebody at Movie Trading Co. bought Tomax and didn't get Zaymot. I'm like, you fucking piece of shit. Because they probably thought that they were going to come out in a later wave.
Mm-hmm.
They probably thought that the twins were individually released on a wave basis. They came out in the same case assortment.
Yep.
2 Tomax, 2 Zaymot, 2 Stalker. 6 per case. I'm like, fuck you guys for doing that, because now a bunch of people either have 2 of the same twin on their display or only one of them, because some fucking savage didn't look at the name and they only grabbed one, or they don't know shit about G.I. Joe and they only grabbed one.
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to say it's the last thing. It's like they only grab one, they don't know who it is. Like,
exactly. And now I'm a fucking actual collector of this line. I'm a big fan of G.I. Joe and I have one of the twins. And of course, I know the solution is, well, buy your shit online. I don't want to do that. I want to support these lines at retail. That way they keep coming to retail. Yep. Because that's the thing, if this shit doesn't sell out at retail, they don't order anymore. That's my fear with Legacy. You
Yeah.
know, like Walmart's
Well,
been overstocked on that fucking wave of Kingdom repaints,
yep.
and
And
then
now
wave
they've
one. Like I think I've seen Armada Starscream once. That's the newest figure I've seen after Geoxys, and that's just for the Voyagers.
yeah, I saw the Soundwave, the reissue Soundwave
Yeah,
once,
from
but
Siege without
yeah,
the paint scraping.
yeah,
Um,
and it's the same wave. It comes with G-Axis and Bulkhead. They're all
yeah,
the same wave.
yeah, because they repacked Bulkhead from Wave One, and
Yep.
so like I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Meanwhile, I see people with fucking Leo Convoy already. I'm like, are you shitting me?
Yeah, I got
It's like that pisses me the fuck off because one, I want Leo Convoy, but
it.
two, I don't want to order it online because they're gonna fuck up my shit. I'm all about condition. Even though I'm gonna open it, there's principle to it.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what
I
I
mean,
mean?
if you're meant on card collector, it's even worse
Oh, dude, hell
because
yeah, especially with those window boxes.
yeah, 'cause I mean, there's no plastic, and which to me, it's always ridiculous because like, look at Star Wars. Star Wars still has plastic. Okay, Transformers doesn't. GI Joe's completely papered out, and then Marvel Legends are papered out, and then Power Rangers are papered out. I'm like, and
Well,
then
and the quality assurance is starting to hurt really bad with the Marvel Legends.
oh yeah, because you just don't know until you open the box with the paint. Like that Spider Man that came out, from the Amazing Fantasy Spider Man that came out, half the paint wasn't there.
Oh,
The
you saw
shoulders.
those too.
Yeah, and I'm looking, I'm like, crap. When I open them, I'm like, all right, I got a good one. I got lucky. It's but it shouldn't be that way. Like,
I haven't bought a single Marvel Legends figure since they switched to the closed box. I just refuse to. I won't. I'll buy
but
them loose, but I will not buy them at retail.
get this on the vintage retro label, they're still in plastic.
Yeah. Well, and you
Like,
know what pisses me off about that too, dude, is Hasbro releases their Star Wars and their Marvel Legends retros on really nice cards, and they release their retro 3-inch Marvel figures on really nice card backs,
mhm.
but the GI Joe retros on
All
their
that
shitty card
thin,
backs are
yeah,
like paper thin. I'm
yeah.
like, that's your own IP. You know what I mean? Why aren't you putting the same amount of quality into this? The classified Joes, the 6-inch ones at
Yep.
Walmart, the retros,
Yep.
they're on floppy cards too. And
Which
I'm
is
like, that's
funny.
bullshit. And then the fucking file cards are formatted incorrectly. The cards look like shit. They're all bilingual, even though they're not distributed internationally.
Yeah, see, and that's what gets me too. Is like, remember when the G1 reissues came out a couple of years ago? How thin it was? Like the plastic just fell
Oh,
off the
dude,
card.
those are bad. I remember those because I bought multiples of a lot of those. I never got the Starscream, but I ended up with like 3 hot rods.
See, I had the Hot Rod, I had the Astro Train, I had the Starscream, I had Soundwave. I mean, I've
Sunwave
got
was a bitch to find.
that Devastator's the reissue, but it's actually signed by the voice actor
Oh, that's cool.
Oppenheimer. But I only found that once, and
I got lucky with my Devastator. I found 3, and I found them mismerched. So I got them for $15 each.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah, I ended up giving one to a buddy, but I have 2. I've got a sealed one and I've got a loose one. I display my sealed one.
And that's all mine is. I've got the G1, and then I got the Target Tonkatron.
Oh, that's cool.
And I was like, and I
Did
had
that
it.
even go to retail?
It did. It was in retail, but
I
I never
never
saw
fucking
it.
saw it.
I never saw it in Target. But I tell you what, I did see. I did see Metroplex in Target, and it was
I've never seen a Titan class figure at any physical store outside of a movie trading co where I saw Triptychon once and I didn't get them and I regret it.
oh yeah, like in that one, I saw it. Which Target? The Target on Arbrook and Cooper.
Dude, that's bullshit.
It was there like not even a month ago. It's still there.
That's bullshit though, because like mine hasn't gotten shit since Legacy Wave 1. They're still sitting on Legacy reissue Galvatrons,
Oh yeah, we have tons of those here.
which I remember the Kingdom one went really fast.
Yeah, but they ended up having like two. It's like two Galvatrons and one Optimus in the first wave, and then they did two more Galvatrons and Blitzwing.
Yep.
And so you can like when I was looking through, I'm like, oh crap, that's Blitzwing. Let me grab that one because if you didn't really look, you would have passed it up thinking it was Galvatron again.
Yeah. Well, and like, dude, fuck, I think I bought that Optimus like a year ago.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, again, I really was looking forward to Minosaur, but I'm not doing the pre-order shit. You want to know why? Because they sold out. You can't get the Stunticons anywhere.
No, they're all gone. I
They're
mean,
all on eBay
yep,
because I missed the fucking pre-order window. So my hope was retail. Guess what? All I can find is a 5th drag strip.
yeah. I've never seen any of the other ones at all. Like I never saw. Some people saw Motor Master in store. I'm like, where? You know, I never.
Did you ever complete the Stunticons?
Yeah, it's done.
I mean, I've got my G1 version, which I'm happy with, but
Yeah, see, I got here. Let me pull it out. So yeah. But I will say, this is my. They did this one right. We're not going to talk about the Combiner Wars one. That was
that was
crap.
horrible.
That was
Even for
bad.
the time, that was horrible.
That was really bad. But
I thought like Superion looked pretty good. Devastator looked good. Bruticus looked okay. The Unite Warriors one looked better. Computron looked good. Abominus during Power of the Primes looked good. Is that Tarn?
that's time.
I thought the Protectobots looked pretty good, but like fucking Minosaur hurt bad.
That what got me with Combiner Wars were the feet on all of them.
Yeah.
It's like some of the hands looked okay. But like the Devastator, that was the best one out of all of Combiner Wars.
Well, it wasn't until they started with Computron with the bigger feet with those independent molds, those looked better. But yeah, the universal hand / foot was really cool in concept, but failed in execution.
And they tried it again in Power of the Primes.
Yep.
And it still looks the same.
Power of the Primes is such a fucking nightmare.
It's like I'm a hot rod is my favorite character, but I don't even have that Power of the Primes hot rod anymore because the whole Rodimus Prime combine it together.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, no, I don't want that no more.
Because the core figure was basically just a slightly okay-ish version of the Titan Returns one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the Titan Return one. That one was fine.
I do too. I wouldn't mind getting the Legends version of that where it's in the darker tones and it came with the Target Master.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I had that one for a long time and then I was like, okay, I got rid of all that stuff. And then, you know what happens? Walmart brings out the Takara version of the freaking Headmasters.
Yeah.
So
I did buy all those. I had to get a few of them from a buddy of mine in New York because they never fucking hit stores over here. The second wave did, but the first wave didn't.
See, I just bought the whole case from Big Bad Toy Store because they got the wave last month. And I'm like, they were going for $40, $50 each. And I'm like, $20, I'm good. Let me buy the wave. I bought the whole wave because I was like, I want those in my collection because I love that. Like, I have, where is it? The Masterpiece of Chrome Dome. I love that's one of my favorite series. From Takara was the G1 continuation in the Japanese side. I love all of them. That's why I bought the HasLab. Victory Saber, and I bought the Deathsaurus.
I was gonna ask if you got the Deathsaurus.
Had to get both of them. But what we really need is a freaking God Genrai is what we need.
We need Diatlas.
Well, I have Diatlas.
I don't. I have King Atlas.
I have the Takara Legends one.
We need a better one though.
Yeah, that one's crap. Remember, that was made off of the 6-shot body from way back when.
I mean,
And then you give me a deluxe and a Voyager to go with it. That doesn't make big powered, really.
it was a clever reuse of molds, and it was okay for the time. But I think we need a better one. We need
Yeah.
one that stands up with Victory Saber. Um, like you know what? I'll tell you what pissed me off about Victory Saber. We were all waiting on ours, but they would send explicitly free samples to some YouTubers
Oh yeah. Prime
just to
versus
promote Death
Prime.
Source. I'm like, why are you sending a product that isn't actively available to purchase to promote another project? That doesn't make any sense. How about you fucking take care of the people that actually paid for this thing?
Yeah. Well, they've been notorious about that with HasLab. I mean, I've got Unicron. You
I
know.
missed Unicron. He came out during a point in my life where I was in between homes. And so he would have been misdelivered and I would have never gotten him.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, so I didn't order him because it was in that window where I knew, yeah, this probably wouldn't have worked out.
Yeah, I mean, it's freaking awesome. I enjoy it, but man, there's so much kibble in them legs. I mean, it's so bad. But I mean, that's going to be the best representation of Unicron we're going to get from Hasbro. Now, there's that masterpiece one from Studio Cell that looks really good. It actually looks better,
Wasn't
but
it shorter?
it's way shorter. It's taller than the old Armada ones and like the Universe one. You remember that one that was like recolored from Amazon and all of them?
Yeah, they've done
Uh,
like four
3 or
different
4.
releases of that mold.
Yeah, yeah. It's
They did the
bigger than.
original, which they re-released in Universe. They did the Energon one in the Dead Unicron colors. Well, actually, there's like six different releases.
Yeah,
There's the Lucky Draw Arms Micron one. There's the Generations one. There's the Platinum Edition one. There's the Takara 2010 version,
yep,
and then there's the Encore version of the Arms Micron. So there's actually like eight. There might
yeah.
be a ninth one,
I
but
had the
there's eight.
2010 one. I had the 2010 Unicron with Primus.
Yeah, that
With the
was
Primus.
a cool one with the remolded head.
Yep. I
Yeah.
mean, it looked good. I mean, that was like the best version you were going to get at the time of Unicron and Primus.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But these masterpiece ones they have, they're a lot bigger than them, but it's not as big as Unicron. I mean, you're never going to get one. Now, I would tell you what's funny though is this. I cannot wait.
Oh yeah. What did they call that one?
This is Fans Toys. It's their Fort Max, but it's
Oh, I can't remember the name of their version of them though,
yeah, this
because he's coming
one
out in like what, fucking three parts, right?
3 parts. Yeah,
Yeah,
this
he's
is
like the
just
Kabaya one.
yep. Yeah, this is gonna be. I mean, this head's already heavy enough. I mean, what's cool is that I can actually use this on the G1 as
It'll
well.
fit.
It'll fit. They actually have the thing built to where you can actually put it on the G1, but
So it
it's
won't
too
be
big.
bigger than the G1.
It's too big. Like it's way too like the head looks way too big on the G1. But I can't wait for that to come out because for A, I don't know where the hell I'm going to put it, and B, that thing's going to be at least a good 4 foot tall, you know. And then they better give me Scorponok to go with it. That's all I got to say.
I wish I would have gotten Earthrise Scorponok. That was a really cool looking figure. Like I kind of want to get Black Zarek if we're doing the Japanese theming, but I also couldn't find Galaxy Shuttle, so and I'd
Yeah.
never found Big Powered. Well, I mean, I know it was a Japanese release, but I didn't get my hands on Big Powered. So, like, as much as I want to go for the Japanese characters, I can't get a lot of them already. So it's like, you know.
Well, and like I got Black Zarek, but I couldn't get the Riorchi, the Black Riorchi, the Generation Select one, because that's sold out everywhere. I wanted that to go with him, but I got the Black Zarek, and then I did the upgrade kit from DNA to make them taller. And that's because I have a feeling we're going to get a God Genrai. We're going to get, something like that to go against it. So, like, and while they're doing it, they better give me a Fire Guts as well.
Well, I mean,
Yeah.
they did the more traditional Power Master Prime in the Legends release, and then we got that in the Velocitron box set.
Yeah.
Which that's a pretty cool version of it, but I know that mold's still not great.
And
Like I wanted to get that one for a while, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna redo it anyways.
I,
So
I, I mean, they just redid Minosaur, and we just got done with Combiner Wars not too long ago. Um, but
it
yeah,
was a while ago.
I'm trying to remember what Combiner Wars was. What, 10 years ago?
No, it was 2016. I mean, it's
Damn.
getting there. It's like 7 years ago, but
Yeah, I mean that's the thing is like it's been a while, but like that one from Velocitron, that was that was a hard one to get because that was a Big Bad Toy Store exclusive at the time,
yeah,
and then it ends up showing up everywhere. I'm like, okay, it's not really exclusive.
I never found it personally, but
Mm-mm. All right, brother. Well, I really appreciate you being on, man.
yeah,
And
no, dude, it's been a blast talking to you.
we can definitely do it again. Have another time. Have fun,
Absolutely.
especially like when passions get ready to come out. You know, we do a Kickstarter. We'll do like a Kickstarter kickoff kind of thing. You know, get you hooked up because
Yeah, dude, for sure.
I want to see this. I can't wait to read the first issue too.
Well, I'll send you some snippets of some of the extra covers
Oh yeah, I
whenever
like
I get a sec. So it'll probably be tomorrow because I have to like literally go to sleep like right
that.
after I get off camera.
Yeah, you need to
Because
get
I
some
got to
rest.
be up at 1.
All
So
right, brother. Thank you, Gabe. Thank you for being here, and thank you everybody that watched tonight. And I know it's Saturday night. A lot of people don't watch all the time, but hopefully, if you guys get a chance, come back and watch us later. This has been your redneck from Texas, Nate. This has been Gabe Mangum. Thank you guys so much. We hope every one of you have a great day and stay sworn, everybody.
later, guys.